the subject says, lost in the morass of YouTube LSAT. Hey guys, found your videos on YouTube as I've been doing basic research on the LSAT. I also found the episode index on the website, which has been really helpful. That's thinkinglsat.com. We have an index of all 270 whatever of our shows, if you want to look up stuff by topic. Couple questions. One, there are tons of opinions about everything, whether to study independently using a book versus taking a class versus having a tutor, whether to read the question stem first, although I have your opinion on this already. Yeah, don't do it. My question is, as someone who is just getting started doing research and prep, do you have suggestions to help sort through good advice and bad advice? Well, that's what we were just doing with pearls versus turds.
Yeah, this is tough. I kind of know this position because anytime you go into a field that you're not familiar with, you're like, should I listen to this quote expert or this other expert? Like, really, who is the actual expert? Like I can tell you, hey, I've read all the different advice out there, and my own advice has been cut and refined over time, largely through this podcast, through hearing Nathan's views, through hearing other people's views, through teaching it itself. And so I would say, hey, just go to the demon, do actual practice problems, and learn from our explanations. That is the best way to cut through the noise. But it's tough when you're in that position. You're like, should I believe Ben or should I believe Joe, who's telling me about how he got his 165 on YouTube, went up 20 points. I don't know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would find somebody who seems like they are giving it to you straight and in a way that you like. So, you know, somebody who you believe that they're not bullshitting you or just trying to sell you something. And then somebody who you feel like you want to spend some time with them on this issue. Ultimately, most students study for 3 months, 4 months at a kind of a minimum, and might study for 6 months or 12 months or longer. And so you are going to be, you know, I would find a guru and I would stick with them. But I think this question is about how do you find the guru in the first place?
Yeah.
You know, I would pick somebody who makes it sound like I feel it clicking. I always tell people, you know, people like to call me and they want like a sales pitch about the demon. And I'm like, go to lsatdemon.com, sign up for the free trial, do some drilling, read our explanations, watch our video explanations, watch the videos of my sample classes. You're either going to love that or hate that in probably 5 minutes. But you could for sure spend a week doing that free trial and then make up your mind. I think if you're listening to the podcast, the LSAT Demon is the for sure very best way you could go for prep. If you like the podcast, you're going to like the Demon. If you hate the podcast, then you're not hearing my pitch for the Demon anyway, because you already turned it off. But if you go look at the Demon free trial and you don't like our explanations or you don't like my classes or whatever, then find another guru. And I don't think, I mean, I think it should take you like 5-10 minutes probably worth of watching a video where I'm trying to explain something or Ben's trying to explain something. And if we're not making it make sense for you, then there's lots of other teachers out there that would probably be right for you. So if you're just sorting through random YouTube videos, yeah, I mean, I would just, the ones that make sense and don't make you want to gouge your eyeballs out.
Yeah.
It should like make sense. Like if it sounds all convoluted and overly complicated, that's not it. It should sound simple and straightforward. You should be like, oh yeah, I follow that step and I follow that step. Like if you're watching a logic games explanation or whatever, that makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. Maybe I wouldn't have done those 3 steps that way myself, but I can see how each of your steps make sense. Oh yeah, I think I could do that. That's the person you want teaching you LSAT.
Yeah. Cool.
Sorry, number 2. In my research, I'm finding that taking the test this spring, which was my goal initially, will put me on the LSAT flex. I'm a little concerned that most of the resources I'm finding are geared specifically towards the in-person test and not the actual flex. For example, would you recommend modifying the next 10 actual prep tests to more closely parallel the flex exam? Take one of the each different sections and skip the additional LR, for example.
This is so much easier in the daemon. Just take the flex version of the test. We've converted all of them into a flex test, which is the same thing, by the way. All we're doing is dropping the second LR section, but we've also, to the best of our ability, estimated what the score conversion would be. So you can see what score you'd likely get on the basis of those 3 sections. It's just 10 times easier to have the daemon do that for you.
People are freaking out about the flex, but it's not that different. I mean, all they did was drop one of the sections of LR. So if you have one of those books, one of those 10 actual official books that everybody used to have for the LSAC or for the LSAT, you can still use that book, drop one of the sections of LR and multiply the scoring conversion table by 75%. The numbers of questions correct, just multiply those all by 75%. And that's as close as you're going to get. But yeah, taking it online is better.
And you get our explanations when you're
because the flex is online. Yeah, and you get our explanations in the daemon.
I don't know.
Well, but I mean, all right, but let's be agnostic. If you're not a daemon subscriber, if you're, what, I don't think it's that big. So just to answer this person's point, the flex is very similar to the official test. They have not changed the content of the questions at all. Drop one of the sections of LR and you're good. You don't really need to do that much to adjust. Number 3.
Yeah. Well, hold on really quick. To respond to your agnostic claim, I've been thinking about this actually since this person asked question 1. When I first started teaching, I remember people would come to me and they would say, hey, I'm thinking about your class or I'm thinking about these other classes. And if it was like Kaplan or Princeton Review, I was like, please just save your money. But other classes, I was like, they're different, but they have their pros and cons. I just don't feel that way anymore. And I think about the daemon and the cost of the daemon. I'm sorry that I'm such an advocate, but I know it's self-serving. I don't have faith in these other systems. And when someone's sitting there with a book of 10, I'm like, okay, great. And then what are you going to do when you're going to review it? Like, what's the point of doing this test if you're just going to sit there and kind of then surmise your own like solution from it?
Your time is your most important resource. And for $95 a month or $195 or $295 a month for our higher levels, you're going to get a lot more out of your most precious resource, which is time. So I agree. I mean, if you have one of those next 10 books, you probably should just instead sign up for the daemon and do those tests in the daemon where you can immediately learn from each one of your mistakes.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm sorry. I mean,
no, I agree.
We talk about the daemon every time. People are probably sick of it, but I just it was invented for a purpose, and I feel like it's fulfilling that purpose.